Hello everybody, there is Nukatbat Allah. Muhammad is a messenger of Allah. In the previous video we have discussed some important information about authentication and authorization. As you can see in the previous video we have already discussed the difference between authentication and authorization, what are JWT and their usage, advantages of using JWT, and in this video we will implement an authentication layer for any web application we will develop in the future using JWT and NodeJS. Okay, let's start. Our application contains 3 endpoints. The first endpoint is a post request under API/v1/login. This is public endpoint. Okay, the user can log in to our application by entering his credential, username and password, email and password. Okay, the second API under it's a get API under API/v1/user. This is protected API, and also this API for get current session details like view my profile. Okay, and this is authorized area. The user must log in first, okay, to access this API. The requirements: first, make sure that NodeJS and NPM installed in your system, okay, by running the following command node-v. As you can see, this is the current version of node npm-v. Also, this is the current version of npm installed on my machine. So NodeJS and npm installed in my machine now. Okay, let's start by creating JWT project. We will create a new folder, JWT, and after creating this project we will initiate a new project by running this command npm init. Okay, now make dir JWT cd JWT, opening this project using Visual Studio Code and initiating node project by running npm init. As you can see, package name JWT, it's okay, version, description, authentication layer for any web application using JWT. Okay, entry point will be server NodeJS test command get repository URL. Okay, keyword is author, your name, license. Now it's okay. This is the package.json file. After that we will install the required packages for our application. The first package that we will use, Express. Express is a web application framework. Okay, body parser, this is the middleware which uses to parse the JSON body from HTTP request. JSON web token, we have discussed JWT and their usage and also more information about its structure and advantages in the first article. You can visit this link and you will get all information about JWT. Okay, so we will install the required package Express body parser JSON web token by running the following command npm I for install Express body parser JSON web token. Okay, now As you can see, this is the packages that we have already installed now. Body parser, express, JSON, web token. Okay, we will create our main entry point. Okay, and get ignore file to untrack files, touch server .js get ignore. Okay, and in this file we will add node_modules. It's okay. Now we will create a directory called source, and inside source we will create controllers, models, routes, middlewares, config. Okay, so make dir source cd source, make dir controllers, models, utils also, sorry, config, and routes, middlewares. Okay, as you can see, this is the structure of our project. Okay, inside controllers we will create new file authentication.js for login logic and users.js to this controller for get the user's details for the API v1/user, okay, to get current details. So authentication.js, this is for login API, users.js for get profile details. Okay, so under controllers here we will create authentication.js and also users.js. Okay, inside routes we will create authentication.js for authentication endpoints and users.js for user management endpoint. Okay, and the third file, index.js, for collecting all route files in a single file. This is the file hierarchy. Okay, now in routes we will create auth.js. This is for login, users or user.js. This is for user management endpoint, and index.js for collecting all routes file in a single file. Good. Okay, for middlewares, yes, we have in our project we have only one middleware. It's authentication middleware. This for authorization and to protect our routes. Okay, in middlewares there is authentication middleware. Okay, inside models we will create users.js. This is our users in the system. Models, users.js. Okay, and users.js will not be like database schema. In this application we will create users array to simulate, like making a simulation for users database scheme. Okay, inside config we will create setting.js. This will contains all system variables and constant. Good. So inside config setting dot JSON. Okay. And inside utils API response dot JS. This is for consistency. This file will we will write a function that this function will return is an object for success and fail response. Okay, this is this response will be unified for all APIs we will develop in our system. This is based on two parameters, data and error, passed to this function. Okay, so in utils we will create API underscore response .js. Good. So this is the file, our file structure. Okay, as you can see, this is the file hierarchy of our project. Good. So in users file users.js, we will create an array which will contains users in the system. This is in the future, or to for more for interacting with the database. This file or this array will be a database schema, not an array, but we make this an array. Okay, this is for fast development, because we only in this series focus on the implementation of JWT with Node.js, not with database Mongoose, using Mongoose or other database driver. Okay, so in this file we will create users array, as you can see here, models users.js, users.js. This is the first user. Username is Muhammad. Okay, make it Muhammad. Password 1234, and this is the email. And this is the second user, Ahmad. Password 5678. Good. And finally, exporting this array, module.exports equal users. Okay. In config setting.json, we will, as we have mentioned before, this file will contains the system variables like port number, and also the secret related to JWT, and the expire time for JWT token. So we will, in this file, config setting, this is the port number will be 6000, and also secret, this will be random string JWT. Secret number, it's a number, a random string, and expire, this will be 1 hour. Okay, So we have already developed our models. It's a users array, and also configure adding the system variables and setting .json file. Now for API response, we will create a function. This function takes three parameters. The first parameter is data. In case of success, we will both a value for this variable, and code, this is the status code, and error. In case of fail response, we will handle the error by passing data for this variable. Okay, as you can see, response equal data. If there is data passed, and this is a success state for the API response, this is the output success true, and data equal data passed to this function. Error will be empty array, and if there is no data, it's null. The success will be false, and the data will be empty array, and we will display error here. After that, we will return the response variable and the code passed to this function. This is the status code, as we mentioned, maybe 200, 404, maybe 500. Okay, now this is the API response. In utils, this is API response module dot exports equal data and code, also error. We will check equal if there is data. Okay, it will be success true, data, and error will be empty array. If there is no data, this means that this is a failed response, so success will be false, and data will be empty array. This is, and we will display the error. Finally, we will return an object. This object contains the response and the status code. Okay, sorry, yes. Good. Okay, for authentication .js, we will call users module, which contains the users array that we have already created, and we will call API response, also the setting, and we will implement the JWT and the login logic related to this part. As you can see here, this is a login function. We will create class called authentication, and inside this class we will create login function. This function takes an object as a parameter. This object contains username and password. Okay, let's develop this. And after getting the username and the password, this is a validation layer here. I have already developed check required function. This function accepts an object and check if the key holds a value. It's okay. If not, it will return as an error, okay, related to the key name. In this case, if the username doesn't have any value, empty value, the output of this function will return an array of strings. Username is required. If password also hasn't any value, it's null value or empty value, it will return message password required. And this is the check required function. Let's develop. In controllers, authentication, use ticket, okay, and we will call users require. This is the user module, users constant API response, okay, equal require utils API response constant setting. This is require, okay, config / setting.json, okay, and we will create class authentication here and exporting this class. Okay, good. Inside authentication class, we will create login function. Login, this function accept user, this is object, okay. Let here user name password equal user, okay. As I mentioned, we will validate this username, it's already hold this value or not, password or not, before starting the process of validating this user already exists in our system, in our database or not. Okay, now we will implement a function, as you can see, check required, okay. This function accept object or data, okay. As you can see, this function accepts an object. We will create empty array, it's errors. We will push error in this array and returning this object here, this array here, okay. Now reading the keys, constant errors, this is empty array as we have discussed, and keys equal data object, object not keys of data, keys dot map, okay, and this is the key. Now we will check if this key hold value or empty. If key if data of key if not data of key. This means that if this key hasn't any value or empty, okay, we will push an error here, errors dot push errors dot push, okay, and key is required. It's okay, very good. Okay, finally we will return the errors array. We can test this function. Okay, we can test this function. Let auth object equal new authentication. Okay, and this is auth object dot check required. This function accepts this as object. This is username, it will be Ahmed, password will be empty. Okay, now console displaying the output of this function. Let us test this function before integrating with login. cd controllers node authentication.js. Yeah, password is required. And if I remove username from here, okay, as you can see, username is required, password is required. Okay, very good. Now the second step, check if username and password already having a value. Okay, if a check.length, this means that there is errors, there is a return from this function. Okay, check.length may this means that the errors array having values inside this array. Maybe as we can as we have discussed before, the username is isn't is null. Okay, password also may be null, so the errors array will have values. So let's check first and continue. Here, yeah, yes, if no, let check equal this dot check required of username and password. Good. If check dot length, this means there is error message. Here we will return the fail API response. So we will return API response of data will be null and code will be 400 bad request. Okay, we can also save this codes inside files, constant file. We can create in utils error codes or response codes here, and requiring calling this file or this module here and passing the error name, not not error in directly like this. We can try. Yeah, let's make it. This is error, or sorry, response codes. Okay, dot gs. Okay, here module dot exports. Okay, we'll export an object. Bad request will be 400, not 200. Okay, good. And in authentication, constant http codes require and utils response codes. Okay, http codes dot bad request. Good. And in errors will be check array, because the check its returns an array. Okay, let's check this. Good, we will test this. Let us equal new authentication, and let displaying console.log the output of login function. Here user name equal null, or sorry, empty. Password will be also empty. As you can see, node authentication.js, sorry, login is not defined. Sorry, this is auth.login. Clear. Yes, this is the output of login. Now the response, this is a failed response. Success will be false, data empty, and the error, it's array of error messages. Username is required, password is required, and this is the status code, as you can see, 400. Good. Okay, very good. Removing this again and continue our work. If the username and the password already, if the user enter username and password, so it's okay. We will skip this part because you have already entered the username and the password. Now this is this part related to JWT. Okay, first thing, we will check if this user exists or not, if the username and password related to a user in our system or not. Good. After check if this user already exists, we will create a payload of user information. After creating the payload, we will create JSON JWT token, and we will return this token in the response, in the success response. Okay, if the user not exist in the system, as you can see, we will return fail response with error message, login failed, check your username and password. Let's develop this. Let's develop. Okay, now we will check if user exist or not. Okay, let user account equal. Now user sorry user dot find. Okay, this function takes parameter, this is user. Okay, return user dot, as you can see, user dot user name equal username, and user dot password equal password. So in this step we will searching for this account. If this account already exists in the users array, users model, it will return true. If not exist, okay, it will return false. Good. If now user account, this means user exists in the system, else user not exist in the system. Okay, for this part, this means that users exist in the system. Okay, this part means that this user not exist. So in this part we will return API response of data will be null, and bad request HTTP codes dot bad request, and the error will be login fail, check your user name and password. Okay, good, very good. We can test. I will let auth equal new authentication. Now we will let displaying the output directly console.log auth.login, and trying to login using any data username that not exist in the system 1 2, and password will be 1 2 also. So the output will be a failed response. This user not exist in the system. Node authentication dot login. Okay, clear. Yes, login field, check your username and password. Now try to login with a user account that exists in the system. Where is, yes, users, username Muhammad and password 1 2 3 4. Okay, authentication, yes, authentication. Now trying to login with username Muhammad, this user already exists in the system, and the password 1 2 3 4. As you can see, the output is undefined because we aren't handle this part yet. Okay, now the user already exists in the system, so we will create a payload. Let payload equal this object ID is user account dot ID, first name user account dot first name. Okay, user account dot ID. Now first name will be user account dot first name, last name will be user account dot last name. Good. This is our payload. Now we will create a user JWT token and sending this token in the response of successful login. Now get this part here. Okay, yes, access token JWT. Yes, we have we are JWT calling this module require JSON web token. Okay, now this is the access token. We will create a signed token JWT dot sign. First parameter, our payload that we have created here, and second parameter, setting dot secret. This is the secret key that we have already created in setting.js.json. It's a random string. Okay, and the third parameter contains our algorithm, the hashing algorithm. Okay, and the token expire time. We have already created 1 hour expire for this token. Okay, good. Finally, returning API response. The API response contains the token, signed token that we have already created, and this code, we will add this code in response code. Okay, this will be 200. Changing this, it's http codes dot. Okay, and the third parameter null. This is error, no errors, because this is a success response. We can test now. As you can see, this is our response: success, true, and data. Its object contains our signed token and http code 200. Good. So this is the first API. We have already created the first API login logic. Okay, we will create our endpoint, okay, to route this API. So in routes authentication.js, we will create the login API. Okay, as you can see, we have already called the authentication controller and creating API v1 under API v1 login. We have already sent the username password and the HTTP request body. After that, calling the login function and both username and password. The response, we will extract the response and the code from this function, the login function, the output of authentication function. As you can see here, sorry, this is the response and this is the code. This is the response and the code from the output of login function. Finally, we will return response to the status, send the code, and .json the response here. Response.code will be 200. .json, it will be this object. Yes, this object. Okay, let's implement this API where, yes, routes authentication. Okay, we will call users controller require controllers slash authentication. Good. And const auth routes will accept express application. We will pass express application as a parameter, and app dot post under this URL API slash v1 slash login. Here request response and next. Good. Let user name and password equal what request dot body. Okay, let auth equal this users controller dot login, and here we will pass user name and password. Finally distract the response and good from login function output. Finally return response dot status. This is the code dot JSON. We will send the response here. Okay, good, very good. Now in index.js, as we have mentioned before in the start of developing the application, in the index file we will collect all routes inside this file. So before we will exporting this module that export is equal auth routes in index file. Okay, module dot export is equal this function accept express application as a parameter, and here require okay dot backslash authentication app. Okay, now we have already developed login function, the login logic and authentication controller, and we have already developed the API login API and the routes, and finally we will implement our entry point to test this. Okay, very good. Now this is our entry point. We can get all of this, and in server.js. Okay, in this line we have already called express package and called body parser. This middleware for parsing the JSON object from HTTP request. Okay, and this is the port number. The port number we have already add port number here in setting.js. Okay, setting.json. This file, as we have mentioned before, contains system variables. Okay, now calling it again source under source config setting .json .port, and if this port not exist in this file, this variable not exist, we will set a default port for us 4000. Okay, for now, after that we will create express application, and here we will configure the body parser app.use body parser.json and using the URL encoding. Now this is the important part here. As you can see, our routes, we have already called our routes under source routes. This will indicate for the index files that we have already create, redirect to these files, and we have already both app the express application to this file, to this function. So we will create express application and pathing this express application to this function. As you can see, this is the express application. Inside this function we will pass express application to authentication route. As you can see, this is the authentication route which accept express application as a parameter, and we can use this express application to create our endpoints. Good, very good. I think it's clear now. The final line here, listening on the port, and now this is the final step here. Okay, let's start the testing using the Postman. Clear, sorry, clear. Now cd before testing we should add the start script in package.json. Here we can add start, and it will be node server.js. And if you already have installed nodemon in your system dev, we can add a development script also inside the scripts. Nodemon server.js. Okay, very good. Now npm run dev. Yes, where is yes, in the authentication we will remove this for testing. Okay, now our server is running under HTTP localhost 6000. We will open the Postman and test the first API that we have created. Yes, here localhost, you can 6000 API, sorry, API v1 / login. Yes, but this 6000 okay, and this is post request, not get. Yes, as you can see, this is without the first case of test, without username and password. As you can see, the success false, there is no data, and the errors appears. Username is required, password is required. Now we will try to enter wrong data. Username, password, this user not exist in the system. Test and test again. Okay, sorry. This is the output. Success, false, error, login failed, check your credential, username and password. Now you can, sorry, login. Where is the user's model? Yes, Muhammad, and his password 1234. Muhammad, password 1234. As you can see, success true, and the data, the signed token here. Okay, so in this video we have already developed the login API, also make a validation, creating the routes. In the next video we will create the authentication middleware for protecting our routes and endpoints. Also we will create the second API, it's user API, get request, get user information, the current session information, by using this signed token. Okay, in the next video in this series. And also I think, and I prefer to make a fourth video, this video, for the quality of code, and also to measure the performance and the code quality, and also write a clean code in this application. Okay, measure all of this by using SonarQube tool. This is a tool with Docker. We will test the performance of our project that we have already developed. If there is security issues or bugs exist in our application, it will report, and we will using this report to enhance our development application. Okay, thanks, and don't forget like and subscribe. Thank you.